and welcome back to another episode of the Comrade Cast. And unfortunately, once again, it took too long in between episodes. My poor baby boy brought home a horrific disease from daycare. I should have seen this coming. Same thing happened with my other kid. As soon as they went to daycare, they got very sick, brought something home that got everybody else very sick, and now we are finally seeing the other end of that. Unfortunately, it is very much so to be expected as his immune system gets exposed to other people and the outside world. It sucks, but it's part of growing up, and unfortunately, we all here have to experience it with him. So I do apologize for that, and I apologize if I sound a little bit stuffed up or sick. I still do have quite a bad cough, but we will make do. But we are going to make up for it today, because today is going to be a fun episode. This has been an episode I've wanted to do ever since the end of the last episode. This has been the episode I've been wanting to do, and I'm finally getting the opportunity to do it. Finally getting the opportunity to sit in front of the camera and film this. But before I do that, I do want to give a little update and be a little bit straight with you guys. Some of you may remember I mentioned many months ago that I went on to night shift to be able to study for something, to be able to gain some new knowledge, some new skills. And fortunately, that time is coming to a close. I've been studying down here a lot, is my notebook, because it's nice and quiet down here. But yeah, I'm just about to take my final test. I have had my nose into a book, studying, reading, writing, and that has been taking up a lot of my free time. But we are getting to the end of it, and I can't wait. I'm desperately tempted to tell you guys what I'm studying now, because I think it's very cool, very interesting. But I think I'm going to wait until I pass the test, because I'm pretty close to it, and I'm going to wait until everything's all said and done before I talk about it. Unfortunately, in between my sickness, whatever free time I have had has generally been focused on wrapping this up and getting my feet over the final hurdle, getting across the last finish line. So hopefully that will be all said and done quickly. So what are we going to talk about today? What is going to be so fun? Well, we're going to be diving into subjects like relationships, the good old gender wars, culture wars, all that lovely fun stuff. But I want to give a shout out to the content creator who inspired me to make this video. Watching his video made me want to bring this topic to the fore, because it has been something that I've had in my back pocket for a while. And I get to finally explain one of my crazy theories that I've had lingering around, finally get to throw that out there. But without further ado, I want to actually introduce you guys to someone who is I talk about how I have a roster of right-wing personalities who I listen to and follow to try and make sure I know as much as possible what's going on the right. Of course, I have my left-wing roster of people who I just, generally speaking, enjoy listening to and whose opinions I might agree with. Who am I talking about? Well, let me introduce you guys to the Kaverncale. He is one of the far-left content creators on YouTube, significantly larger than I am, but I really like this guy. I'm not sure how old he is, but I'm pretty sure he's a little bit younger than I am. Really like his beard, and generally speaking, he talks in a way that isn't super offensive, right? He doesn't come at you like he's a crazy radical, even though I'm pretty sure he is. He's probably one of the few people I'd actually consider to be more left-wing than myself, but he explains himself in a pretty even-handed way, and he is one of the left-wing people out there who I appreciate, because he is basically just a normal person. So yeah, big fan, shout out to him. But enough of that tongue bath. Let us move on to the actual video in question. As you can see, maybe the title here, we won't talk about this guy too much in the show, but this was just so funny. I had to bring it up. I had to talk about it. So if you can see the title there, it says Andrew Tate and conservative men now say it's gay to like women. So let's go to the tweet in question. Let's go to the thing which started this all off for me. And I just have to feel like this has to be like the most epic of epic trolls. At this point, the guy is just saying the complete opposite of shit that he's been saying for years. It comes out and says the complete 180. And I'm just wondering if he's like, at this point, like fucking with the people who follow him. He's like, man, I wonder if I can get these people to believe the most ridiculous shit possible. If I just do a complete 180, will these people still be with me? Anyway, so here we go. Here is the tweet in question. He says, sex is for making children. Any man who has sex with a woman because it feels good is gay. Oh, my pee-pee feels good. This is great. In fact, you are probably 40 with less than 5 then you're probably gay. all the feel-good PP sex and hardly any genetic legacy. So where in the hell do I even begin with a mess like this? So first off, as far as my understanding of what gay is and the term gay, I believe that having sex with women is the least gay thing that is possible, the complete antithesis of what it means to be gay. Of course, I should say, rephrase that. If you are a lesbian, then obviously having sex with women is gay. But you understand what I mean. As a man, the least gay thing you could probably do is having sex with a woman. That is the definition of not being gay. Maybe he's trying to bring back gay to the old phrase that it used to mean, like happy and joyous and excited. I guess in that sense, sex is gay. Let's just establish that sex with women as a man, the least gay thing you can do. But let's move on to one of the deeper points here. This goes against so much of what they have been telling people for years, right? If you've been listening to these guys for any amount of time, one of the things that they will say consistently is that, bro, before you can even think about settling down with a woman, you need to have sex with 50 chicks before you can figure it out. You need to go out and explore and see what's out there. And, in one sense, this is sentiment that I actually agree with, that before you settle down, you should go and see what's out there. I don't think that 50 is there's no hard number, right? There's no magic number that flies out of the sky. This is the amount of people you have to be with before you can make an informed decision. It depends on the person in a case-by-case basis, right? So every individual is different in that regard. But yeah, you should know the kind of person that you like and are compatible with before you decide to make a commitment for a long period of time. I think that's very reasonable. But now he's telling you the opposite of what they've been saying this whole time. So if you actually go out or you have sex with 50 women, now you are gay. You are gay, and you are apparently a big-time homosexual. Yeah, don't do that. So I guess what are you supposed to do? Just find someone, have sex with them for the point of having kids, and then just that's the only time you ever have sex ever again. Let's stop and have another kid. Let's suit up. Well, I guess suit down. So yeah, now who knows what the hell you're supposed to do. What a fucking clown. And then of course, there's another part of this which I would vehemently disagree with, which is that sex is exclusively for the point of having kids. This is not the only point to have sex with another person. There are multitudes of other reasons that you can have sex with another person outside of just making kids. When you start going down this road, right, you get very much so into that Monty Python-esque every sperm is sacred type of thinking. I don't know how, as a young man, you're supposed to navigate all these weird expectations. We're going to go through a couple more things that apparently make you gay as we're going through this episode here. But yeah, as a young man, how are you supposed to be wary of not having people question your sexual orientation or identity? I don't know. I remember when I was a kid, that going through high school, there were very few obvious things that would get you called gay as insult by your peers. Stuff like wearing colors that would be associated with girls rather than boys, talking maybe with a high-pitched voice, really just basic dumb stuff that you would probably be able to imagine just giving a couple moments of thought. So I highly recommend you give this video a watch because we're going to go through a couple of the main points it brings up. Well, let's move into another thing that makes you gay, apparently. This is another tweet that gets showcased here. Been sick all day. My partner draws me a bath, brings me a cup of tea for said bath, makes dinner, and cleans the kitchen while I lay in bed resting. What a man. Humana humana. And then Buddy says, bet you he's into men. So here is the thing, right? I thought as part of the whole traditional marriage vows that you take when you marry somebody, part of the traditional Western Judeo-Christian values, isn't part of them in sickness and in health. And don't both the man and the woman say that? That's what happened in my marriage. We both said in sickness and in health. And yeah, I get it. They're not married yet. At least it doesn't specifically say that. So let's just assume, for simplicity's sake, that they're not. But you have to be able to make that vow if you're going to get to that point, right? I'm assuming if these guys are in a long-term partnership, they're probably angling at getting married at some point down the future. And if you're going to get married, you want to know that your partner is going to be able to fulfill that in sickness and in health part of the vow. But regardless, being able to fulfill that part of the vow and show that you're able to do that apparently means that you are into men. So let me tell you guys a little bit about how my wife and I distribute the household labor and household chores. And as you may imagine, sexual equality is very important to me. And this is something that actually very much goes both ways, in my opinion. I am talking very much so stringent sexual equality in the sense that we have the capacity to do everything. Each one of us can do everything that needs to be done. We don't sit down and we don't like measure, you did this day, so that means I do this day. The only thing we do that actually is with bathing the kids. We alternate the days that we bathe the kids. But other than that, we don't have a stringent sort of chore table. We do have tasks that each of us prefer to do, but we can always do the unpreferred tasks whenever is necessary. And of course, we do them quite frequently. So what do I mean by this? Is that both of us can do all of the things, right? I can do all of the traditional things that you would associate as the masculine role. And then on top of that, I can also cook dinner. I can also clean the kitchen. I can also do laundry. I can do childcare. I can clean the house. Whatever else is in that kind of realm of traditional feminine house care, I can do no problem. Quite frankly, it's not that difficult. All of this stuff is just tedious. None of it is ever difficult. It's just boring. And then when it comes to my wife, of course, the opposite is true, where she can do all the quote unquote feminine things, but also all the quote unquote masculine things. She can take out the garbage. She can mow the lawn. She can shovel the driveway. She can change a tire. If there comes an instance where my wife gets a flat tire, she can change that tire herself. Again, it's really not that hard. YouTube exists. It's a very useful resource for stuff like that. And if for whatever reason I wasn't with her, she would be able to do that on her own, because chances are I would be at home with the kids, right? And the last thing she wants is for me to come and take the kids to where she's trying to change the tire. And now all of a sudden we got to like wrangle the kids while they're running around in the street, right? Sounds like an absolute nightmare. But regardless, I hope you guys understand my point is that, in my opinion, that a true sexually equal relationship requires both partners to be able to comfortably do the chores that are considered the realm of either sex, if that makes sense. I believe that in a true sexually equal relationship, which is something that I try to maintain for myself and my family, that everyone needs to have the capacity to do everything as needed. There's none of this bullshit blue job or pink job. It's everybody's job. And you know what's funny? I thought I was going to bring this up maybe a little bit later in the episode, but I guess I'll start with this tangent right now, is that when I bring this speech to, I've done this speech to both men and women, and it's funny that the women will usually start off like, yeah, good job, and then they'll like slowly taper off. And men are the opposite. They're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And then they kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Usually when I start off by saying I'll do the dishes and the cooking, the cleaning, like the girls are like, yeah, good job, buddy. And then when I talk about how my wife will mow the lawn and shovel the driveway and can change a tire, it's like they're no longer on board. They're off the train. And honestly, that really drives me crazy. I find that so unbelievably annoying and hypocritical when that happens. And I get especially frustrated when women who purport to be socialist, left-leaning, or progressive start to become upset when I start to talk about this. And I'll tell you guys something. I am really hard on progressive women a lot of the time, because I believe that if you're going to claim you're a progressive person, fight for sexual equality, fight for those kind of values, then you are purporting for something more than just yourself. And if you're going to purport for something more than just yourself, well, you need to make sure that you are actually displaying those political values accurately and holistically with what you're trying to convey. If I'm talking to a woman who's more conservative, more the quote unquote trad wife, I don't care, right? She's chosen her lot, right? And speaking of that, we could talk about Lauren Southern again. Maybe we'll talk about that later in the show. The conservative women have decided they are okay with the traditional gender roles, and they are okay with prescribing that. I think that that's a terrible mistake, but each person has the opportunity to make their own mistakes. But I can't tell you guys the number of women I've met in my life who claim to be socialist in favor of sexual equality, in favor of sexual liberty, but at the same time, in the same breath, they'll expect the man to adhere to 1950s gender roles in their relationship. Or even worse, they will act like one of these red pill guys and they'll call a guy gay because he did something that would be traditionally associated with a feminine trait. Maybe he had a feeling at one point and he expressed that feeling to you. And I've seen instances where progressive women will call men gay for that. Needless to say, when that stuff happens, it's one of those things that I will call out and draw attention to and have done in the past. And yeah, it's been quite a battle. But if we are actually going to achieve sexual equality in society, this is what needs to happen. Both men and women have to be able to do everything. But not to get too derailed here, because this is obviously a man saying that another man has to be adhering to these 1950s sort of gender stereotypes, or else they are gay. And one of the things about this whole 1950s gender stereotypes is that these are, by and large, entirely modern conceptions. A lot of these guys like to say, these are traditional gender roles going back to blah, 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 to the ancient times. But in fucking ancient times, in medieval times, guess what? Women were working their asses off just like men were. And I have a screenshot here of Manor Lords. This is a game I've been playing extensively. It's quite good. Still in early access, though. It still feels very much in early access. That's my only complaint. But everything else is good. I just want more of it. But one of the things that I really like about this game is how it actually portrays the medieval working cohort, which is like you don't assign manpower to a task, to a job. You assign the entire family to that job. So the entire family is in charge of the brewery. The entire family is in charge of the tannery. The entire family is in charge of the smithy. But most likely what people will be doing is that people will be in the farms. They'll be plowing the fields, because back before modern farming techniques, right, we all pretty much lived on a razor's edge between being well fed and starvation. We were all trying to eke out a subsistence living. And in order to eke out those calories that we needed to survive, we need to have a ton of people working the fields. And it wasn't just men working the fields. It was women out there all the time, plowing the fields, harvesting the crops, doing what needs to be done. So this idea that like the women were just like sitting at home in their rocking chairs knitting or some shit during the medieval ages is all a bunch of nonsense. They were out there working their asses off along with the men. If anything, traditional quote unquote gender roles are doing whatever the fuck it takes to survive. Whatever it takes. Doesn't matter. It's not like we're going to sit around and pontificate about, oh man, am I fulfilling this gender role when I'm fucking starving to death? No, you're going to do what needs to be done. So anyway, on to the next thing here. Let's talk about this here. This is the next tweet that we have here. Here we can see a woman who is attractive and also quite muscle bound. Definitely has some muscles to flex here. And what it says here is, this is a psyop. Muscle mommy fetish is literally homosexuality. Even though it's a woman, it's not the same sex. Therefore, not the definition of homosexuality, but okay. First was the vax. Don't know why that has anything to do with anything, but there we go. Go throw that in there. And then they got TikTok brain kids to goon over these women. If you've ever found yourself attracted to this, you desperately need to raise your test levels. Again, right? Where did people become so judgmental? I felt like the younger people would be less judgmental than my parents, but a lot of these people, they remind me of, my dad is a very judgmental man. They remind me of him. They remind me of this boomer judgment mentality, but whatever. Apparently now we get to judge you based on your sexual preferences. And if you like this certain type of body type, well, guess what? You might be gay. Oh man, doesn't matter that she's a woman. Apparently that is completely irrelevant to the discussion. Whatever. But I will tell you guys, personally, this is not my ideal body type. I think she looks great, but like I said, just not my personal preferred body type. But that's just me. Well, let's move on to the next one we have here. Okay, next one from Sad. Tomboys are not hot. I repeat, tomboys are not hot. To tomboys is homosexuality. in all caps. And women shouldn't be working outside. Okay, well, what kind of man lets his woman work outside like a man? Well, apparently this man does, because I let my woman mow the lawn and shovel the snow. So apparently I'm a big piece of shit. Not like I really care, because I've been married for 10 years, have 2 kids. What's this guy got? Probably not the same. And again, going back to our previous discussion, right? This idea that women should work outside. The women shouldn't be doing manual labor. This is entirely a modern invention. This did not exist in ancient times and medieval times. This is something that we've just built up in our heads. Like I said, women were out there harvesting the crops, doing the same backbreaking labor as men to make sure that we all could fucking survive and eat at night. Next up, we have a similar vein here. If you're attracted to her, you're a latent homosexual. Sorry, I don't make the rules. This is a little bit more my body type for sure. All that she is she is just fit, and apparently you're a latent homosexual. My big question here is, who does make the rules? Who is it? Who is the person that makes the rules? I think that there are no rules. I think that you pulled that directly out of your ass and put it out on the internet for everybody to see. Here's another one. This says, do you think it's weird for a grown man to stand in line and get an ice cream cone completely by himself? No kids, no wife, no girlfriend, no friend group, no purchase for others, just a cone by himself. Fortunately, most people voted no on this, but it was close. It was 44% to 6% voted a no. This is not weird. I don't think I've ever done this. I think if you are going to a public place and you're like scanning around and you're like, oh man, who is the guy who's standing in line for an ice cream cone by himself? I think that this maybe might underlie some deeper issues and some deeper philosophical battles that you're having internally. If this were me in my life and I looked around and I saw a guy buy an ice cream cone for himself and walk out, I wouldn't give 2 shits at all. I would give absolutely nothing. I would give 0 thoughts about that, because this is another person's life who is doing something that they enjoy. They are getting a small treat for themselves to hopefully ease the shitty world just a little bit. But if you do anything that is nice or good or pleasurable for yourself, that's gay, apparently. And this is definitely one of the common themes that you see coming up again and again and again. Is if you do anything that is comfortable for yourself or rewards yourself or gives you something good, well, that's gay, apparently. This is another one. I love this idea of the Icks. This just makes me laugh. But yeah, so let's talk about this one here from Nadia. This is from a girl. She says, men running in the airport with backpacks are such an ick to me. If you're late, walk and take it like a man. This to me is, what does this even mean? What reality does this person live on? Thank God my wife is not on social media. Thank God she stays off of social media and yet that doesn't get exposed to the kind of ridiculousness like this. But this whole ick phenomenon is very fascinating and quite honestly funny to me, because these icks started as stuff that you could understand. It's a really big ick to me when a guy pulls out a switchblade and starts cleaning underneath his fingernails. That would be very gross. Then it's moved on to, man, it's a really big ick to me when a guy puts a wallet in his pocket, or just like the most benign things you can possibly imagine. In regards to this kind of ick thing too, another big thing which is making the rounds over TikTok and social media are these bizarre relationship tests. And again, thank God my wife is not on social media, but if she ever tried to pull one of these tests, I would be able to notice it coming a mile away. I just want to take some time to make fun of my favorite personal one of these TikTok tests, which is the catch-up test. For those of you guys who don't know what this is, what happens is that your significant other, usually a girl, usually the woman, takes ketchup and then fucking deliberately squirts it on the counter and then asks their partner to clean it up. And if they clean it up, they get partial marks. But if they clean it up really, really well, then they get full marks. So it's not just about, will you do this thing for me? It's like, how well you do this thing. The thing about all of these tests is it's so fucking obvious every time that the woman deliberately squirts the ketchup on the counter. And Oh my God. I would be very straight. My wife, like, I just imagine she goes to the fridge, she gets the ketchup, and I just imagine she's staring at me the entire time, not moving her head, not blinking, just making eye contact the whole time. And she goes over to the counter, she'll take this ketchup and still staring at me and squirts it out. And then she's like, clean it up, bitch. I would very happily tell her to pound sand at that point, because not only do I know that this is a setup, and that to me is the biggest issue with this whole thing, right? That you are testing people and you're trying to see where they stand. Like, testing someone is something you only do when you're very insecure in a relationship. And the reason you're testing somebody is because you are insecure and you want to test them to see if your insecurities are valid. But here's the thing, when you test somebody, even if they pass the test, that still doesn't assuage your insecurities. You're still sitting there like wondering, did he know what was happening? Oh, maybe he only passed this one test this time. And of course, you could read into all the little things that they did to see where exactly they stand. It's just a fucking joke. If you are testing people in your relationship on this level, you are not a healthy person. You do not have a healthy relationship. You need to find another way to spend your time. But yeah, my first thing would be, I very obviously saw you pick up the ketchup and deliberately squirt it on the counter. No, of course I'm not going to clean it up. You did this deliberately, intentionally, and on purpose. Clean up your own goddamn shit, please. You can't do something like that so deliberately and obviously and then expect someone else to cover for you. But one of my favorite things here is that if the guy had like a briefcase or a suitcase, could he run then? Is it the running or is it the backpack that is the ick, right? If Buddy had a briefcase and he was hustling, he's okay, because a briefcase is more masculine than a backpack. But my favorite part is if you're weight, walk and take it like a man. Like, just miss your flight and potentially be out on hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars. What kind of nonsense is that, man? What kind of nonsense is this? This to me definitely sounds like something that's coming from a very privileged frame of reference, because most of us cannot afford to take a hit on something like that. Maybe that's the reason why we're running to get to our destination. Although personally, I'll tell you guys, I fucking hate airports. When it comes to airports, I'm always there insanely early. I am there way early because I always fear that something is going to go sideways and I'm going to be late. So I always get there nice and early. All right, now we're getting to, this one is my absolute favorite. This is incredible. So this is from Our Social Skills. Is it gay for another man to say good morning to another man? I am a 23-year-old male. My dad and I were out at the laundromat, and as we were leaving, another man walks in. I make eye contact with him, and I say, good morning. And he replies, y'all fellas all right? And when we walked out, my father tells me, don't ever say good morning to a man around your age. Guys will think you're a little sweet. You understand me? Next time you say, what's up, or what's going on? To a woman, it's fine, but not to a man. When you're out on the streets, don't say that. I don't understand this at all. When is it ever gay or wrong for a man to say good morning to another man? I say good morning to everyone, male and female, at work and have no issues. I don't think I did anything wrong, and my dad is being absurd. Is it gay to tell another man good morning? No, it is not. This poor kid. For your dad to do something like this to you, I would say is very awful. It's a very awful thing to do to your kid, to put this kind of thinking in their head. Because again, how are people supposed to function when we have all these like invisible rules, and apparently everybody's judging you for your sexual orientation based on the type of greeting that you use? I don't know, man. This is just such crazy talk to me. I have trouble wrapping my head around the type of logic that you have to get there to say that saying good morning to another person, someone might think that you're gay if you say that. Again, in my life, if a man says good morning to me, I'm going to say good morning back. And then that entire interaction, if they're a stranger at least, and even if I know them, like they're a coworker or a friend or acquaintance, that brief interaction of good morning is gone in my head instantaneously. I'm not thinking about that shit at all anymore. I got other bigger fish to fry. I'm certainly not going to sit here and pull apart and do some sort of fucking autopsy on the types of greetings that people are saying to me and I'm saying to other people. That is just such a waste of your cognitive resources. Next one here is, I feel like if you work from home as a man, you are gay. I don't need to spend a lot of time on this. I think it's just pure jealousy, right? I think that most people want to work from home. I personally wish I could work from home. And I would certainly never be like, man, the guy who works from home, what a queer. How dare he support his family from the comfort of his house? Fuck. Next one here is, I think it's gay for a man to order pink lemonade. Here's the thing, guys. I fucking love lemonade. Yellow, pink, limeade, mango lemonade. I don't give a shit. Lemons are just in general probably my favorite, or one of my favorite flavors. Obviously, lemonade is right up there. One of my favorite things to make at home is actually just fresh squeezed lemonade with a couple fresh squeezed lemons, some simple syrup, and a nice, clean, refreshing water. It's delicious, especially during the summer. And I can't tell you how many times I've ordered pink lemonade in my life and never given a shit what anybody thought of me. I will happily go just take my pink lemonade and sip it right in front of this chick's face. I don't give a fuck. All right, next one here. Apparently it's gay to put your groceries in a bag. I was checking someone out at the gas station where I worked. First I thought checking out, like, I read that as checking out, like you're like seeing if they're sexy type of thing. I was checking someone out at the gas station where I work and asked if they wanted me to put their groceries in a bag. For reference, they had 2 liters of soda, 2 cereal boxes, and a box of Pop-Tarts. They said, no, I'm not gay. Proceeded to fumble around trying to hold all their groceries. People are weird. Again, this goes back to what I was saying. It's if you do anything that conveniences yourself or gives yourself a little bit of comfort, something that you like, apparently that's gay. Just giving yourself anything that you enjoy, that's gay. But I think, honestly, it's way gayer to fumble around with all the groceries, walk into the car, and then you drop it, right? And you got to bend over and you like expose yourself to everybody. I don't know. That to me seems a little bit more what you'd want to worry about. All right, guys, I was going back and forth on this. I really hate playing clips from these goofs. I can't stand them. I don't want to subject you guys to them, but I am going to play a little bit from this video just to give you some context here. This, again, is just going back to the first point where they're talking about how living with a woman is going to make you gay. Like living with your woman, living with your wife, living with your partner. Now, that is gay on top of everything else. And what you should be doing is you either live alone or you live with a bunch of bros who got the Sigma grind set and you all go to the gym together. So I'm not going to play you guys this whole clip, just maybe about 10, 15 seconds here. But that's the background.
It solves all the problems. Why would you want to be with her all the time? She's always emotional. She's always going to have a problem. She's going to want to like put her legs on your legs while you're just like chilling.
You just sound like you hate women.
You're working. No, they're great sometimes, and then they get too much, and then go away.
So
you go your separate ways.
With being with a woman all the time, but you could handle living with several high-value men at the same time.
That sounds like way more enjoyable.
I'm just saying it sounds a little gay.
Well, no, because you'll have more similarities with them.
So obviously, Destiny hits the nail on the head here. I would say living alone, right? That's your thing, right? If you have the capacity to live alone, you don't have a partner, I think that's probably the best way to go. But if you do have a partner, someone you're going to have a long-term relationship with, you know, you actually should live together if you're going to build a life together. And apparently the thing that men and women actually have been doing, the ancient tradition of men and women living together. That's the tradition that is actually there and has actually been around for human history. That's gay, right? We're going to throw that tradition out. That tradition we don't want anymore, but all these other ones, yeah, they're okay. But this clip in particular reminded me of a story that happened in my life. And this brings me to my ultimate theory on virtually all of these red pill guys. Let me tell you the story first. Sitting around a table, we're sitting around with a bunch of guys, and we're just talking about nothing, completely unrelated stuff to what's about to happen. And then one of the guys, he just slammed the table, and he's like, you know what, guys, if I could just get my fucking head around the idea of having another man's dick in my mouth, I would be gay in a heartbeat. Can you imagine what a good time you would have with another dude? You'd just be chilling. You'd be doing your own thing. There'd be no drama. It'd be awesome. And that's when it really clicked in for me with these guys, is that they all secretly wish they were gay. They want to be gay. They long for it because this gives them the opportunity to finally remove the hated women from their life entirely. Then they don't need women for anything anymore, and they can just rely on their boys to take care of all their needs for them. And you can see that kind of thinking manifest itself time and time again when they talk about women. You can see the obvious message when they talk about women, which is that they believe that the only reason you would ever interact with a member of the opposite sex is for sexual intercourse, is to pursue sexual intercourse. If you're not going to do that, then there is literally no reason to ever speak to a woman. You see this kind of attitude when they talk about why you shouldn't have like female friends. It's like, why would I ever have a female friend? It'd be like a waste of time. Are all your male friends a waste of time too because you can't have sex with them? I don't know. One of the things we've talked about on the show is that every relationship between two people has multiple facets and can take on multiple facets. It doesn't have to just be a sexual relationship. Like with my wife, obviously we have a sexual relationship on top of an emotional relationship, a loving relationship, a lifetime partnership type of relationship. With my friends, I have some of those things too, but obviously we don't share that sexual aspect. Not every relationship can or obviously should contain that aspect within it. And there's absolutely no reason that you can't have a relationship with a member of the opposite sex that doesn't contain that aspect. Regardless, though, my point here is that these guys, they envy people who are gay. They wish they could have that kind of lifestyle. They wish they could bring themselves to be attracted to other men in the same way that they're attracted to women. So again, they don't actually have to interact with them at all anymore. So anyway, that's going to pretty much wrap up most of what I wanted to say about this video. I know that there have been a ton of major current events which have happened recently. We had the Iranian president die in a helicopter accident. We've had the Russians open up a new front in the Kharkiv region of Ukraine. And we've had the International Criminal Court posturing to potentially lay out an arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu. So all of these things have happened recently. Of all of them, though, I really feel like I don't have too much to say on them at this point. A lot of them I just really want to let breathe. The one thing about the Iranian president being killed in a helicopter accident, I will briefly touch on that before the end of the show. The word on the street is when it initially happened, people were wondering if this was an assassination attempt. It seems highly unlikely that this was an assassination attempt. Just very suspicious timing. The main reason is I don't know if we can put a lot of stock in the maintenance of the Iranian aviation forces. And not only that, at the time when the helicopter crashed, it was apparently very poor weather, very low visibility. And that was probably the main contributing factor to what happened. But the current Iranian president was almost like a caretaker president anyway. He didn't really make a huge impression, this guy, not like his predecessor did. But regardless, so let us just wrap up this video and our main topic. And it's bizarre. The way I feel is like we've had this almost inversion of the phrase, it's okay to be gay. Now it's gay to be okay. If you are a normal person who is well-adjusted, who likes the things they like and are comfortable in the things they like, who may go against the grain, you are just okay with who you are and what you like, that's gay. What you have to do is you have to conform to these very rigid set of arbitrary rules, which, I don't know, apparently somebody made up somewhere that we all have to adhere to that seem to change constantly, or else you're gay. My obvious advice to everybody is your own sexual orientation. And if you don't know, you will discover it over the process of your life. And that is for you. It's for nobody else. And if anybody else questions it, Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck if anybody ever questions your sexual orientation? It doesn't matter at all. It's not for other people to define on your behalf. So be okay, guys, and don't worry about what anybody says. And with that, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. It was nice to do something a little bit more fun, a little bit less doom and gloom, taking the black pill, something to at least take the piss out of some very weird relationship tests and relationship takes. I certainly hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, really good to do something a little bit more fun and not so much worry about impending doom, end of the world, any of those wonderful things. But with that, I want to thank you guys for watching. This has been the Comrade signing off for now. Until next time, you guys take care.